For today's episode of Ride on Budget, we'll be looking at a favorite car of mine, my 2007 Volvo S80. It's equipped with all-wheel drive and powered by a 4.4-liter V8 that was created in partnership with Yamaha. The engine produces 311 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque. From a standstill, it'll hit 60 miles per hour in 5.6 seconds and have no qualms if you wish to accelerate further. Therefore, it not only delivers in classic Volvo ways such as safety, luxury, and design, but also is a true wolf in sheep's clothing, packing with it a serious performance punch. In 2007, when this car was new, it was Volvo's flagship sedan and was the first year of the second generation of the S80, which remained in production through 2016. When new, it retailed for around $55,000, which is equivalent to about $67,000 today. However, a used one similar to this, according to Kelley Blue Book, can be picked up for less than $9,000. So, without further delay, let's take it for a spin. First, I should start off by saying I'm going to be a little bit biased. I've got a soft spot in my heart for the Volvos. My very first car was a 91 940 Turbo, and then I ended up replacing that with the 92 940 Turbo, so you get the idea. I do like their product. Volvo's always been at the forefront of automotive safety, and this car really speaks to that. It's got a whole bunch of really cool features that are very impressive today and were really impressive back in 2007 when it came out. My main reason for getting this car is that it has all-wheel drive. It's a really nice feature. It can get me up to the snow, can handle better in the rain. Just a nice thing to have going. Another good reason that I got this too is that it's got a V8, and when you hit the hammer down, it just screams. It's got this adaptive cruise control where you set whatever top speed you want the car to go and it will max out at that speed, but if there's anything in front of you moving slower, it'll just slow down to the speed of that in front of you. So you don't have to hit the gas and brake, all you gotta do is steer. Also tied into the adaptive cruise control is this anti-impact system, which is really nice. If you're approaching a car too quickly in front of you or some object, it starts violently beeping at you, the windshield starts lighting up red, and the brakes get pre-tensioned. It's a really good feature to have in case you're like messing around on your phone or filming a YouTube video or something. Something else really cool is that the headlights turn with the steering wheel, so it doesn't really matter on a day like today, but if you're on a dark night and a curvy road going along, it's nice to see what you're turning into instead of just what's in front of the nose of the car. The brakes on this car are absolutely awesome as well. They're really big, and this car just stops on a dime, especially for its size and weight. It's very impressive. Kind of a bummer when you go to have them replaced, but that's another story. Also, this car is really just a great luxury car overall. It's got these really nice leather seats that are heated and ventilated. They got fans in them that cool you down. Really nice adjustable lumbar support going on. Back seats are super comfortable. Overall, it's just a really nice ride to be in. Another really cool thing, it's got the push button start. It doesn't really help with performance or anything, but it makes it feel really nice and new, and it's just a cool feature. This car is great for hauling things too, surprisingly. The back seats fold down, and the passenger seat actually folds all the way down too, which actually is really nice too if you want to just kick back in the back seat and put your feet up, but you got to find a driver to be able to do that successfully, and that's easier said than done. So more than anything, it's good for hauling. Along the lines of the luxury elements this car delivers, it's also keyless everything. It's not just the push button start. I mean, you walk up to the doors, you open them, you don't have to actually click to unlock them. Push a little button on the doors to lock them. It's just nice. The keys always stay in your pocket. You never have to deal with them. The stereo is really nice. It's actually not even the premium one. I really kind of wonder how the premium one sounds after hearing this one. Another little sweet thing they did with this car was that the back headrests will actually fold down with the touch of a button. The car's surprisingly sporty too for its size and for all the weight being up front. It's got a few nice features. It's got an adjustable steering wheel responsiveness where you can have a real light or real heavy or somewhere in between. Also, the suspension's adjustable. You can go from a real firm, real sporty setting all the way to a comfortable setting, and there's another setting in between there. The transmission will click over and let you select what gear you want to be in, which is really nice if you're cruising around on twisty roads. You just want a little more control over the situation. It comes stock with 18-inch wheels with some pretty big beefy tires. I got Toyo tires on this that the previous owner put on, and I've actually been surprisingly happy with them. They stick well to the road and handle nicely in the rain. They've been good all around. I don't know if I'll be buying them again when it comes time to replace them. I guess it just kind of depends on how much they cost and what the competition has going for it, but I can't knock these tires. They've been good. Another thing that makes this car fun is when the previous owners lowered it. I think there are B&G or H&R springs on it. Only dropped about an inch, but it's noticeable, and it isn't any less comfortable to drive that I'd notice, although I haven't driven a stock Volvo S80 V8, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but I like the lowering springs. I'm glad it was done, and it's kind of funny that it would be done on a car I got. I did not know it was lowered when I bought it, but you could say I was pleasantly surprised when I found out. Now, it's not all roses and honey with this car. There are a few things that I could complain about, so let me get started on my list there. Now, the fuel economy is not that great. I can't say I expected it to be all that wonderful. It is a big V8, and actually, if you drive it real conservatively on the freeway, you can get about 25 miles in the gallon out of it. But if you're driving it normally, you're definitely sub-20s, and what really sucks about that is that the fuel tank is just not very big. I think it's like 16, maybe 18 gallons, although when I'm driving this around, I feel like I'm living at the gas station. This car also didn't come with a spare tire. I mean, what's up with that? This is the flagship Volvo, and it came with foam in a can. After owning it a few months, though, I ended up realizing why they had the foam in a can and not a full-size spare. That actually is even more infuriating. So, a full-size spare does not fit in the wheel well, and with the all-wheel drive system, you can't put anything else on, otherwise it screws it up. So, I ended up buying a full-size spare, and now it takes up half of my trunk. Another bummer about this car is, despite it being all-wheel drive, it's not a rear-wheel drive bias car, it's front-wheel drive bias, and you definitely feel that driving around. It'd be cool if more of the power was pushing you along instead of just pulling you. This car also didn't come with any brake pad sensors, which really doesn't make any sense. The way you figure out when the brakes are going is when you start to hear grinding. It does, however, have a windshield washer reservoir low sensor, and it always tells me that because there's a crack in it, so that's just wonderful. Something else that makes me scratch my head is that there's no parking sensor on this, there's no backup camera stock on this, and there is a sensor to tell me if I'm about to collide with something at high speeds, but nothing if I'm just trying to park the car. And I think it was an option, but I figured it would have been standard. This car has also not been the cheapest to maintain. It's definitely nothing like the Volvos of yesteryear, like the 240s or 940s or even 850s. Like when I had the brakes done, it was about $500 an axle, and that was through an independent shop. Volvo quoted me $750, I think, before tax. So it's more in that kind of BMW, Benz range of repairs, but it's a whole lot of car as well. One bummer about this car is the steering rack had to be replaced. Fortunately, that was not my bummer. It was the bummer of the previous owner, but I think that cost around a couple grand to have done, and it was right around 120,000 miles, give or take, so something to keep in mind. I don't know if it was a fluke or if it's par for the course with these cars. The steering feels awesome now, though. The cooling system was also replaced recently, I think also around 120,000 miles. That was also done by the previous owner, thankfully, and that cost about $1,500 to have done. The last owner, the poor guy, he also replaced the front struts. I think that was about $1 grand to have done. It might have had to do with the car being lowered, or it might have just had to do with the miles on it. I don't know. They are adjustable, so that's got to add to the complexity and wear and tear on them, but something else to keep in mind. Now, there are a few add-ons I put onto the car that really didn't cost that much to do, were pretty simple, and it made the car a lot more enjoyable to drive. One is I added the GPS in and got it all hardwired in, hiding everything, and it looks more or less factory and just really nice to have. Also, that's tied into a backup camera that connects wirelessly through the GPS cable, and that's nice for backing up, obviously. I added a little Bluetooth receiver and hooked into the auxiliary stereo line, so I'm able to talk hands-free and control my phone through it. That's another nice little feature, and it was only about $20. When I reflect on this car overall, I gotta say I really, really do like it, and I would encourage someone else to buy one if they were in the market for a Volvo, or just a nice luxury car that's a sleeper, it's got a lot of power to it, or something that's all-wheel drive, or, you know, any combination of all the above. It has not cost me that much, knock on wood, since I've had it, and I've had it for about 15,000 miles, give or take, in about a year and a half, a little less than a year and a half. And, you know, I've just had to do the brakes, had to change the oil, and otherwise it's been good. It's been solid. So time will tell, but so far I think it's a good value. I think it's been a lot of fun, and I have not had any buyer's remorse with it thus far. So I'd encourage taking a look and happy motoring.